Are you ready for the Low Blows Network? Hi guys, Rick here. Before we get to this episode of Paddy's New Yacht, I'd like to talk briefly about gambling because it'll be discussed a lot on this show. Gambling is supposed to be fun and accoutrement to your sporting weekend. However, it can also be debilitating and ruin lives. If you find that your gambling gets in the way of work, school or other activities, causes mental or physical health issues, causes any issues in your life, gives you financial stress of any kind or damages your reputation, then gambling may be a danger to you. If you spot any of these signs in yourself, stop gambling immediately, consult problemgambling.ie for all resources that can assist you and help yourself before it's too late. And now, on to Paddy's New Yacht.
Former pro wrestler Rick Nash and former Paddy Power insider David Kent are not good gamblers. They're sports fanatics who are determined to crack the code and make it rich on sports gambling or die trying.
This time next year, we'll be millionaires.
Follow them on their journey to eventual bankruptcy every Friday on the Low Blows Network with sports tips that made so much sense at the time in Paddy's New Yacht.
A couple of weeks ago on Paddy's New Yacht, we did say that the Super Bowl was a bit underwhelming. In terms of the finalists we got, the Patriots and the Rams, you know, arguably not the two teams who deserve to be there, but I don't think any of us, especially after last year's classic Super Bowl that seemed to herald a new, entertaining future for football, and the season we had with such classics as the Pats against the Chiefs in the regular season, the Rams against the Chiefs in the regular season, we were guaranteed to have a good game, right? Wrong. It was awful. 13-3, the lowest scoring Super Bowl of all time. It was absolutely painful to sit through. I apologise to anyone who listened to Paddy's New Yacht last week and got hyped up with us. I did make my money back. I like, for what it's worth, like, and if you bet along with me, you would have made your money back as well. I think it was. In the end, I ended up going for Pat's win, Sonny Michel to get a touchdown and under 56.5 points. I cleared that under. So it wasn't all bad for me. I made exactly 30 quid back after betting 30 quids for an even a break-even day. So it wasn't all bad for me, but bad for pretty much everyone else who watched. Even the halftime show of Maroon 5, absolutely painful to sit through. But anyway, as we get kicked off here, on another edition of Paddy's New Yacht, Rick Nash, joined as always by the Daily Star and Buzz.ie's David Kent. Dave, in sports, apart from this probably, what is the highest profile match in sports that stunk up the place for you?
Honorable mention goes to Red Monday because it was the first game that I can remember Sky properly giving like a title to. Like obviously you had Super Sunday and a couple of like matches built up during the week as well towards the weekend. But this is the first one they've started plugging like 3 weeks away as Red Monday, Liverpool against Man United, and it was possibly one of the worst games of football I've ever seen. Drab 0-0, classic home day away performance, got the job done. But I'm going to go for my home turf, and that is darts. And not like, yes, pay-per-view darts used to be a thing. I say used to be. It was put on for one night, and it was the PDC champion against the BDO champion, which back in 2004 was a huge thing. Yeah. Because this was the first time since 1992 that a PDC player had taken on a BDO player. So they decided to put it on Sky Box Office. Phil Taylor against Andy Fordham. And those of you who've ever known what happened, it was called the Showdown. And they weren't even able to finish it because Andy Fordham started having chest pains halfway through. Oh. And it did so much damage to the idea of darts as a sport that it took a solid 8 or 9 years. Taylor was like 12-4 up on him anyway. But he, like, the fact that one of the players was so unhealthy and so big that an hour on a stage under the lights had started causing him chest pains. It was bad, and that's the reason that darts isn't on pay-per-view anymore, which is not something that many people would have thought of anyway. So, long-term good, I suppose.
Yeah, and especially considering one of them is the world champion in their field as well, like, doesn't help things. In darts, I suppose there's a lot of that, where during Phil Taylor's reign of dominance, there was a lot of finals that you get pumped up for, and it's like, no, this guy's going to beat him, and then it'd just
George Jenkins, you can go through them all. Like
a complete whitewash. And then in terms of pay-per-view sports as well, you got to think back to Tiger Woods against Phil Mickelson this year. A lot of people got fairly psyched for that. They're like, this is going to be fun or different. At least it was neither. It was
future of golf. Yeah,
it was samey and boring. But for me, I'm going to pick the first ever final that I would have followed properly through in sports, and the first ever tournament I followed. I take you back to the World Cup 1994, because I was like a kind of a casual football fan, but when you're like 5 or 6, like, you watch the match if it's on, but you don't appreciate kind of the context of it all. In World Cup 94, it was when it would kind of all started to click to me and make sense to me. I've spoke about Ray Houghton's goal against Italy in Giant Stadium being kind of the seminal moment for me, but it was like, so I started to follow the World Cup. I got the sticker books. I think at 7 I started reading World Soccer magazine to kind of research. I was a well-developed young child, but I was hyped for this. It was Italy against Brazil, and in the few weeks I'd been learning about football, I learned that this was a big deal. A rematch as well from their final, I think 1978 it was. So a rematch of a classic World Cup final beforehand. You had like the two alpha dogs in football meeting in the final. How often do we get that in a World Cup? Usually the draw will screw us over. Yeah, again, not a lot of people would have said France and Croatia were the alpha dogs in world football, and they ended up meeting in the final last year, just through the way the draw worked out. And they were the best of a lot of teams who didn't want to win. But this had it everything. In the Rose Bowl, in America of all places, not the traditional home of football, but it just, American brings an extravagance with it, and what ended up happening, you got the players like Romario, Bebeto, Cafu, Dunga, the Baggio brothers, Roberto and Dino, Paolo Maldini, Francesco Baresi, all these legends on the field at the same time. What did we get? The first and only ever World Cup final to finish 0-0. There was I was reading through a match review today trying to jog my memory, because I remembered, I will never forget the flat feeling that I have, and if I did, it was only matched by last Sunday's Super Bowl. It was just awful. Like, it was like, chances were hard to come by in the first half, and then it moves on to the second half. I'm like, was that any better? It's like, chances were hard to come by in the second half. And I'm like, yeah, that's how I remember it. And it's just like, because as a kid, especially a kid who grows up watching pro wrestling, you're used to like the big match being the one that pays everything off. This is the one you've been building towards. And then I learned for the first time that not always the case with finals. And then in the end, Roberto Baggio, probably my first ever favourite football player in the world, just through this tournament. And then he quickly lost the title because he missed the penalty to give Brazil the penalty shootout win. So I even lost that as well. It was just very flat. It reminded me of Sunday. And look, it's going to be more of a commiserating week here on Paddy's New Yacht, because as well, after building up the whole season towards the Super Bowl, only to get that, we've built up the whole, it feels like a year now, since the Grand Slam last year, for the Six Nations, the World Cup, the start of the preparations. 2 weeks ago, we had Neil Keegan on, getting us all hyped up and patriotic. And then what happened. So we're not feeling, morale is a bit low here on Paddy's New Yacht, but look, I'm sure you're feeling the same at home if you've been following along too. So we're going to get through this together, guys. We're also going to pick our Premier League picks for the week. We're going to preview the Six Nations action to come this weekend. Hopefully it'll be a better one for us. And we're also going to be quizzing my colleague David Kent in the latest Kent on Kent quiz, as he looks to overturn a difficult, what do you know, 12-10? Are you 2 points behind?
12-10, 2 points.
2 points. All right, so you're in touch.
I've never been able to close more than one, so you're doing well to just keep me at arm's length.
All right, this week is doable. I'll give you that much. It's doable. So we shall see. All that's still to come. But first, we're going to get kicked off with the sporting news for the week, because, guys, we only have like an hour to discuss all of the world of sports, and we want to discuss all the sports that we can. So what we do with the news is we package it all into one quick package. We put the 5 top stories we want to discuss. We put a minute on the clock for each one. We call it the 5 and 5. And ladies and gentlemen, it's about to get underway right now, because we warned you it could happen, but we never really thought it would. Ireland were absolutely dominated in a 32-20 loss to England in the Aviva to kick off the Six Nations on Saturday. With a tricky tie in Murrayfield to follow this weekend, it's the time to get concerned that this is when it all falls apart in a World Cup year for Joe Schmidt's men.
No, because you'd rather it fall apart here than in the first couple of pool games in September, October. The thing that worries me now is the injury list already. We've got CJ Stander out for a month, Devin Toner is out, Keith Earls is not 100%, he's playing again. Just this morning, the team news was out, Henshaw is injured as well, even though he was out of position last week. So maybe wrap up and call. I wouldn't be too worried even if we lose to Scotland on Saturday. We'll get to that later on as well, because we've Italy in week 3. If we had Wales or France in week 3, I'd be like, okay, panic stations. If we lose to Italy, that's when panic stations set in for me. But Italy is a nice one. I don't think Joe will care about the results much now that the Grand Slam is out of it. I don't think he'll care about winning the title. I think it's now just a case of, right, keep us fit.
Yeah, well, look, that ultimately has to be the priority. It would have been great if we'd have won a Grand Slam here and headed in like as the undisputed number 1 side in world rugby. Would have been fantastic. Off the table now. I'm going to go the opposite way. I think it is time to worry. I think there's a few tropes we're familiar with in Irish sport. You know, it's like in football, if we're playing like a big team in a match where they're kind of switched off and they don't need to win and we really need to win, we're probably going to win. If we're playing a winnable clash where we should get through, we're probably not going to win that. You know, rugby, it's the same, and we spoke about this all the time. We peak the year before a World Cup year and then slowly but surely fall apart. And that was the only thing, because there is no excuse. People gave out about the referees on Saturday, but you know what? If we'd have won the game on the field, the referees wouldn't have been an impact. And that's the same in any sport. You should win irregardless of the referee. And if we played to quality, given our side and given the English side, we would have done so. We didn't. The problem was England came out with a game plan. We didn't have a counterpoint to that. And that's the problem for us. That is a problem at coaching level, which we're not used to saying with Joe Schmidt. And I don't know if we're ready to actually accept it, but we have to, because we've seen it happen now. England absolutely manhandled us, which means we can be manhandled. And if you're going in with a quarter-final tie with the Springboks on the line and stuff like that, and then if you're looking at, okay, say we get to the semis, maybe we get to the final, we're going up against the All Blacks, who are going to be coming at us full steam ahead. If we can be manhandled like that, yes, it absolutely is time to worry. I'm just now maybe I'm protecting myself a little bit, but I am lowering my expectations now, because I've been here before and I just don't want to, staying optimistic will only lead to getting hurt. I cannot be optimistic after that tie. I've a bad feeling now.
Look, I subscribe to that. And also, listen, lads, for any new listeners, 5-5, as you mentioned, theory only. It's the first time ever that I've seen Joe Schmidt's side look uncomfortable. Even with Leinster, like maybe the time against Argentina, we got shell-shocked. Wales, before that, we've been caught up, and this was just uncomfortable rugby. It was like, right, we don't know what we're doing here. Yeah. But moving on, we talked about at the start, after a record for consecutive punts, low points, and a highly defensive game, Monty Christen's Super Bowl 53 as the worst one ever. But is that being harsh? Obviously in modern times, there's probably going to be someone like the 60s that probably are going to be moved, but is that being a bit harsh on the Patriots and the Rams?
No, it's the worst. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen all 53 Super Bowls, so I can't turn around and say, yes, definitively it is the worst ever, but it's the worst I've ever seen. It was a pitiful game. It was awful. And again, the Rams kind of reminded me of Ireland, and we're going to go over a minute here, guys. It's the fucking Super Bowl and we've covered it all season. But the Rams kind of reminded me a bit of Ireland last weekend, like Joe Schmidt, like you were saying, looking hapless, looking completely hopeless. Sean McVay, again, this super coach, this coach like Joe Schmidt, where every team is going out looking for a new Sean McVay, just didn't have an option for Bill Belichick, and came out afterwards and was like, I was thoroughly outcoached, which he was. You could see he just didn't have answers for the questions that Belichick posed to him on defense. They were like, look, it wasn't an entertaining game. That doesn't take anything away from the two defenses who played really well. There is a lot to like about this game strategically. Bill Belichick showed the type of schemes and whatnot. We could get into it in depth, but there's no need because it was a terrible match. But Belichick showed a game plan for how to beat the Rams. He showed, and look, there's a lot to learn from it. Belichick and Brady putting the GOAT conversations aside with their 6th Super Bowl ring. scoring. Absolutely phenomenal. Also showed that they could win in different ways. Last year, competed in the second highest scoring Super Bowl against the Eagles. Obviously, it came out on the wrong side, but that was their defense letting them down. Tom Brady completed the record for yards in a Super Bowl game there with 505, I think it was. This year, Tom Brady went missing. They'd love to give him Super Bowl MVP, but he disappeared off the pitch. Julian Edelman had to step up. Sonny Michel stepped up, as we predicted last week when he was called upon. So it was the other players rallying around Tom Brady. Showed Bill Belichick in particular to be an absolute coaching mastermind, the greatest coach of all time. You've got to escalate that to all of sports now. You've got to put him in line with the great NBA coaches past, with the likes of Alex Ferguson and so on, because that's the feat that he's done here. He's shown he can now win a Super Bowl even if Tom Brady plays one of the worst games of his life, which statistically it was. Look, on paper, it was horrible to sit through. It was an appalling game. It was so boring. But at the same time, there's a lot to like. But for me, it's the worst Super Bowl I've seen in my lifetime, and I hope that it's just a one-year blip.
Yeah, the previous one that was kind of worst that I've seen was Super Bowl 50, Broncos against Panthers. But at least then the halftime show, you'd Coldplay, Beyonce, and Lady Gaga, or Bruno Mars. This halftime show, you had Maroon 5, and it was bad. I was sitting there at 3:30 in the morning just going,
I liked it. They've got. I'm not gonna lie, I liked it.
Okay, I was sitting there going, well, this was a waste of my time.
As well, one thing you have to discuss, last year after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, people were like, oh look, where's the defense? Where's the defense? That's what happens when you get a defensive game. Do we really want that? The NFL have ruined football. They've ruined football. No. This was ruining football. This will turn people off football. This was an awful game. That's what happens when you get a defensive game. So everyone's saying, oh, the art of defense is lost. There's a reason they changed the rules. And sadly, the art of defense was found for another day, just to remind us. Anyway, look, moving on. Just weeks after many Liverpool fans declared the title race over, Man City are now top with Pep Guardiola's side seeing off Arsenal and Everton while Poole flopped in a draw against West Ham. Is this the beginning of the end for Poole, or will there still be a title race?
Look, Liverpool haven't had their blip. Every team goes through a blip in the season. They haven't had theirs yet. Maybe the last couple of games we're starting to see that. It just so happens that City have already had theirs. So they are now in full steam ahead to, right, we have got this. Poole they looked out of ideas against West Ham on Monday night. Salah drew a blank for the second game in a row. Firmino did nothing. Mane scored from a ridiculously offside goal with James Milner. This weekend is a huge test. I think they might have to steady the ship. But if they get past March, they've still got United, they've still got Arsenal. I think there's still Spurs as well to play before the end of March. That is truly the test. I think this it's hinting towards the beginning of the end.
Yeah, I think so. I think now City are going to go into full steam ahead because they're going to just adopt the attitude that we cannot lose any more games this season. The only hope that Liverpool have is that they have a bit of a more difficult Champions League tie than them, so there's a chance they could go out of the Champions League because they're playing Bayern, and Bayern are in great form now. Whereas City, you'd expect them to want to push ahead in the Champions League. So if they get distracted by the Champions League, then there could be more of a title race. A lot of people pulling for Spurs as well. I'm not as optimistic on Spurs' account. I think they've been kind of getting away with it for a few weeks. They've been doing really well to win without Harry Kane and Dele Alli. I don't want to take anything away from them, but just in terms of overturning a 5-point deficit with City in the form they're going to be in, again, you brought it up. When you look at the fixture list, it's just not. It's kinder slightly to City than it is to Liverpool. Even the way the fixture list bounces with the home and away ties against bigger sides. I don't know if I see City slipping yet again. I think this is Liverpool's blip. We're in the middle of it, and this is the kind of season where draws are the equivalent to losses. I 2019 so far has been a blip for Liverpool. I think they're going to right the ship, as we'll discuss later on when we talk about this weekend's Premier League. But I think City just have a bit more in the tank now. But also keep in mind, Liverpool are only behind on goal difference and they have a game in hand. So I don't know if it's over yet. I just think I'd well fancy City more now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that if I was a betting man, and I am. I'd probably put money on the City, but there's no good odds. In the NBA, Kristaps Porzingis was traded to Dallas from the Knicks. But Anthony Davis is expected to be the biggest name to move before the deadline tomorrow. But will the Pelican star make the switch? And if so, where? There's a number of teams after him.
He's come out and said it's time, so yes, he's putting pressure on. He wants to go. He doesn't want to be on the Pelicans for another day. The problem is the Lakers aren't ponying up the money that they want, and that's the only team that can really afford him at this stage. He wants to go there. They want him. It'll happen eventually. I'm just not sure if it'll happen in the next 24 hours. A lot of fun. If you're not keeping an eye, though, the NBA, follow Adrian Wojnarowski on Twitter if you like, because he is fantastic. He gets the scoop before anyone else. It's all you need to do. You don't need to watch Sky Sports News or anything like that. There's no kind of theatrics or anything. Just follow him on Twitter and you'll get the updates as you go. It's fascinating because the past few years, NBA trade deadline, after being a dud, has turned really entertaining. You had Porzingis, the New York Knicks, who haven't had a franchise guy in 2 decades, since Patrick Ewing in the 90s, ended up trading their guy to Dallas of all teams. At the last minute, it wasn't expected. They traded him last week, and they're hoping to rebuild. Kevin Durant is rumored to be going there, but it's far from confirmed. He seems to be resisting any rumors that are tying him there from the Golden State Warriors. So it's an interesting one. Also, another fun thing about the NBA trade deadline. Harrison Barnes of the Dallas Mavericks learned on the bench during the second half of his game with the Charlotte Hornets last night that he was traded. He ended up just sitting it out, looking disorientated the entire time, and then having to do an awkward goodbye with the Dallas crowd after the game. So you get stuff like that happening. It's quite fun, and in a week where we've just had a really boring transfer deadline day, maybe that's something that people could keep an eye on. But like, it's over at 8 o'clock tonight, so if you're listening to this as soon as it's been released, you've got a few hours. But do I think Anthony Davis is going to leave today? We've got 4 hours left, so no, I don't think it's going to happen because it'll need to be accelerated very quickly. Anyway, moving on to the final story, and in darts, so I know you want to talk about this, Kento. Gary Anderson was forced to pull out with a bad back, leaving the PDC announcing that 9 players over 9 weeks would replace him in the Premier League darts. The starts back tonight. Their opponents will win points if they win, while the replacements will have cash incentives for single games. Insiders are calling this solution innovative, but what does it make the league more or less interesting to you?
Absolutely more, and I'm delighted with it because of the air quote TV majors. The Premier League isn't a ranking one. It's the only one that doesn't affect the rankings. It's the one that's on for the longest, ironically enough, but there's no ranking points, there's no ranking cash towards it, and it's been a bit boring the last couple of years. No harm to the players; they're just doing their job. But at the end of the day, no one's missing out. No one player is missing out on any cash, for example, for stuff like that. And the idea to bring these 9 new fellas in, so like if you go through the names, Glenn Durrant, 3-time BDO world champion, won his tour card at Q School, going up in Glasgow on the second night. I think he's against Gerwin Price, I want to say. Steve Lennon is Irish. He's from Carlow. He's in Dublin. Likes of Luke Humphreys. All these lads who've had great years now get a chance to show off on telly. And this is how Gary Anderson initially got his start in the Premier League in 2009, 10 years ago, when Wayne Marvel had to pull out halfway. He had the mumps. So Sky brought in, who was it? Anderson, Jelle Klassen, Vincent van der Voort, and there's one name that escapes me for exhibitions. I love this. It means that I'm actually interested in it again when I haven't been for the last years, and there's a lot of darts fans who agree with me.
Yeah, look, a lot of people are, like, personally, I don't know, it's like... For me, like, it'll be interesting, especially I like the way they're bringing in the hometown boys wherever they're playing as well. Like, that's a nice touch. It is interesting. It's a bit gimmicky. I preserve the integrity of the tournament. And I know the Premier League, the reason for anyone who doesn't know, it's not a ranking event. It's because it's a closed off event. And I think it's the first 4 players in the PDC World Rankings. And then it's like Sky have wild cards and then the PDC have wild cards as well. So it's invitation only, really. So it wouldn't make sense to be a ranking event. And that by proxy, it's not a major, though it is televised and well hyped. And it's a good night out if you want to ever go.
It's a brilliant night out.
Because you'll always get good games. I haven't watched it in a few years, though. I think Michael Van Gerwen, he's won the last 4, if I'm right in saying.
He's definitely 3. I think Anderson might have taken one in between.
I think it's 4. I read it like 5 minutes before we went on air, so I'm fairly sure
Probably
it is.
4 then.
But yeah, Michael Van Gerwen's won a lot. So like, I don't know. I like tournaments where I'm like, there's stakes for this, there's that. This seems a bit gimmicky. You'd never see this in the Premier League or the FA Cup or any other sports. It's the kind of thing you'd only see in darts, where it's like, fuck it, we're just going to wing it. And I'm not mad about sports to do that, because I do like, the chase, the league. I do like buying into it. Whereas one match is going to be a glorified exhibition match, if a fun one, because it's a hometown boy. So it might be better television, but for me, better television doesn't necessarily equal better sport. Like we talked about the Tiger Woods Phil Mickelson deal at the start. Sometimes it does. So it doesn't necessarily work for me, but a lot of people like it, and I'm probably not going to be watching much of the Premier League anyway, unless I'm stuck for something being on. So, like, if people enjoy it, good for them. Anyway.
But also, go on Steve Lennon. Get off your puppy.
You'll be watching that anyway. So, that's the 5 in 5 for this week. We're going to move on now to the Premier League for the weekend ahead, because our prediction league is back. I dominated last week. 21 points.
Week as well, if I remember right.
21 points, absolutely killing it, top of the monthly standings. But guys, you can still enter for our monthly and our yearly standings. If you're only entering now, probably a bit late to win the entire tournament, but all is not lost. If you want to play along, all you have to do is get onto our Twitter. About 6 o'clock tonight, we're going to put up a tweet with the prediction league for this week. All you have to do is pick the 10 games in the Premier League this weekend, pick the score, and pick an anytime goal scorer. If you get the correct outcome, you get 1 point. If you get the correct score, you get 3 points. And if your anytime goal scorer scores, you get 2 points. So a total of 6 points per match, and a lot of points to be won. If you win our monthly contest, you get a monthly subscription to Low Blows VOD. If you win our overall contest, you get a Premier League jersey of your choice. So get involved with that, guys. We're going to give our picks because we wanted to play along and see how we did. But also, since we're the hosts of the show, it's not fair if we ended up winning and got the prizes ourselves. So we put a handicap on ourselves. We record this on a Thursday morning or afternoon, and as soon as the picks come out of our mouth, they are locked in for the weekend. So even if a player goes down hurt and he's our anytime goal scorer, or if there's some dramatic change between now and the deadline on Saturday morning, we cannot change our picks. So there we have it, guys. Still won last week, just saying. We're going to get kicked off.
He's so cocky.
We're just going to get kicked off with the early kickoff, as always, in the Premier League on Sunday. Fulham against Man United. And Dave, we have one golden rule here on Paddy's New Yacht when it comes to the earlies, and that is in 3, 2, 1. Don't bet on the early. You don't bet on it, but if you're ever gonna, and you shouldn't, it should probably be this one. If you're ever going to. Fulham have yet to beat a top half side this season, and they face a United side, of course, still undefeated under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, now grinding out the tricky games against Leicester last week. United have also kept clean sheets in their last 3 away. So, while Solskjaer's run may not last much longer as they face both legs against PSG, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal and Man City within the next month or so, I don't see it coming to an end here. I'm going to predict this being 2-0 Lukaku, as Solskjaer may rest players with Paris Saint-Germain on the horizon on Tuesday, and Lukaku looked hungry in his shot against Arsenal, so he'll want to get back among it.
Yeah, look, this is Fulham's last chance to give himself a shot in the arm, but even I can't argue their case to beat what appears to be the unbeatable at the moment. United are winning some games in style, but as you mentioned, more importantly, they're winning ugly, which is a great sign. The Red Devils won the corresponding fixtures 4-1 in Old Trafford. The Cottagers will see at least 2 goals in 6 of their last 7 games, and I fear for them here. I'm going to go 3-0 Rashford. I imagine they'll get him out an hour and then be taken off, but that'll be job done by then.
Moving on to the 3 p.m. games, which are always bet safe, but tread lightly with some of these. Crystal Palace against West Ham, first and foremost. And the stats all point to one thing, that this is an acca fuck that you should avoid at all costs. However, now that I'm coming back to the accumulators in the Premier League after the NFL season, notice that sometimes I don't listen to my own advice. West Ham have lost their last 3 away, but Palace haven't beaten West Ham in 7. Then again, West Ham have won their last 3 London derbies. So, what of the statistics do you listen to there? Wilfried Zaha returns for Palace after suspension, while West Ham are sweating on the fitness of Arnautovic and Nasri as they continue to try hold off their injury crisis. So, let's go to our golden guide. For any newer listeners, we call it FMQ. It's form, motivation, quality, in that order, and it's how we decide for difficult games like this. Palace, just edge it on form with 7 versus 5 points from their last 6 games. Motivation-wise, it's 12th meets 14th with no immediate danger of relegation unless results go way against them, which they're probably not going to. Quality-wise, it's much of a muchness. West Ham you probably lean to in terms of squad, but when you consider their injury crisis, it's much of a muchness. So there's nothing separating them here for me. I'm going to pick 1-1 with Wilfred Zaha to score.
Yeah, look, the Hammers, as I mentioned, probably should have beaten Liverpool at London Stadium, but England's Declan Rice spurned a glorious opportunity to grab a winner and make himself Ireland's Declan Rice in the process. However, on the road, they've been poor, losing their last 3, conceding 5 goals and scoring none. Luckily enough, you haven't lost to the Eagles in 7 games. Palace snapped a winless streak, but a big win over Fulham last weekend. They're not quite clear in the relegation zone yet, though. A win here could do wonders. I like that pick of a draw, but just going by the eye test, I'm not liking Palace's chances. West Ham seem to be playing better from what I've seen of them, at least. So I'm going to go for 2-1 to West Ham. I'm going to go Felipe Anderson.
Are they playing better, or did you just watch them on television against Liverpool? And did they raise their game for that one?
As well.
I know that. I'm not saying that you don't watch them, but I'm saying that did they raise their game for one game because
possibly
they haven't been getting good results before that, and we had Liverpool to win convincingly last week. Huddersfield against Arsenal. Moving on, and what a time it'd be for Jan Sievert's new manager bounce to kick in at Huddersfield. Arsenal are sneaky poor away at the minute too, having not won on the road since November, nor kept a clean sheet in any of their travels this season. And with Holding, Socrates and Mustafi all out, Arsenal will again be vulnerable at the back. But still, it would have been a great time for new manager bounce last week too, and the Terriers lost 5-0 at Chelsea and looked miserable. Huddersfield have also lost their last 6 at home and haven't beat Arsenal since 1971. That's like 3 Kentos ago, if you're keeping score.
More than that.
Unai Emery is going to demand the performance after looking meek against City last week, so I'm going for 3-1 Arsenal, Lacazette to get among the goals.
Simple logic here. Huddersfield are fucked. I can't really do anything else more than that. Arsenal may be misfiring when it matters most, but they're good at winning games that they should. They've never conceded a goal against Huddersfield in the league, which is worrying when you see that Huddersfield have only managed to score once in their last 11 games. Like they're already in the championship. This is the West Brom of last year mixed in with them Stoke manager Paul Lambert. Jan Siever is cooking some Bratwurst sausage, preparing himself for the championship next year. Yes, Arsenal's defence will give them a shot at scoring, most definitely, but not one of winning. So I'm going to say that they get their first goal, and see where there's going to be a consolation in a 3-1 defeat. Aubameyang's going to score for Arsenal. Okay,
moving on. Liverpool against Bournemouth. Liverpool have the chance to go back atop the Premier League table with the visit of a Bournemouth side whose away struggles we've covered in depth here beforehand. They've lost 7 on the bounce away now, and Liverpool, they're yet to lose at Anfield, so don't overthink this, guys. Sure, it'd be a great time for Liverpoolitis to kick in, but I think that came at West Ham on Monday, and now is the statement reaction. That's what comes after Liverpoolitis. Let's not forget, because we haven't seen it much this season, where they look to eat into the gap in goal difference that separates them and City at the top. They won the reverse fixture 4-0 with a hat-trick for Salah, so fuck it, I'm going for the same again. Maybe not the Salah hat-trick, but he's scoring anyway.
Fair enough. Liverpoolitis is in full flow. I'd say maybe the West Ham away is a difficult fixture on paper, but if you're looking at Bournemouth at home, that's one that says Liverpoolitis to me. But more importantly, I'm going to introduce a new thing, Kloppitis, because he seems rattled. Getting wound up by a throwaway Mark Noble comment in a post-match interview where he was actually praising Liverpool and getting like, oh, we're not scared of them. What's he saying? Maybe more teams should be scared of them. Like, come on. Jurgen Keegan is rearing his head and he's feeling the pressure of the title race already ahead of a visit of Bournemouth. Liverpool's sensational record at Anfield tips the scales for me here. As you mentioned, Cherry's lost 7 on the spin on the road. Salah fired blanks in the last 2 games, which has cost him his place in my fantasy team. So he's probably nailed on to get a hat-trick, but I'm going to go for 2-0, James Milner.
Okay, interesting. Southampton against Cardiff. Next up, Cardiff's impressive win against Bournemouth last week means that they can leapfrog Southampton with a win here. But that was in Cardiff. And away from home, it's been a different story for Neil Warnock. The Bluebirds have got just 5 points away this season and scored fewer goals on the road with 7 than any other side in the league, including Huddersfield, so that's pretty bad. They visit a Southampton side in their best run of form this season under Ralph Hasenhüttl, the undefeated in 5, though coming off 2 draws. Look, you could talk me into Cardiff tightening up for a draw here, but I like the odds and everything else pointing Southampton's way, so I'm taking them 2-0 with Redmond to score.
Yeah, like that. Cardiff played pretty well in their win over Bournemouth last weekend, but again, as you mentioned, it was at home. They've only managed to turn out 6 points on the travels all year. I'd say it's still unbeaten under Hasenhüttl.
No, they've lost in the cup, but unbeaten in the league.
Unbeaten in the league,
sorry,
yeah.
5 unbeaten in the league. I'm not sure if that corresponds to... I don't know that.
Was his first one against United, I think. They might have lost one after the weekend after that. But anyway,
Arsenal
it's still a
was
decent
the
record
first win.
Sorry, yes, there you go. So, still, that's a decent record for a side who, before Hasenhüttl came in, were looking doomed. As you mentioned, Cardiff can overtake their opponents with a win, but they're on the road, and I still can't confidently predict ever Cardiff winning under Neil Warnock. I'm going to say 2-1 to Southampton in a tight game, with Ward-Prowse scoring.
Watford against Everton. It's 2 out-of-form sides combining to make one almighty acca fuck. Watford have only won twice at home after winning their first 3 in Vicarage Road to start the season and have won just once in 7 in total. Marco Silva would love a return to his old club as a triumphant hero, but instead they sit one place behind them in the table, having lost every league match in 2019 except for beating Bournemouth, who are away, so it doesn't count. We spoke about it above, and Huddersfield, where it definitely doesn't count. The draw is the safe sitting on the fence option here. I think we'd all love it to be a cracker, as it has the potential to be. Instead, I see it being a bit of a dud with home advantage and just a hunch tipping it towards Watford for me. I'm going for 1-0 with Pereira to score.
Yeah, I agree with most of that. Marco Silva made himself more of a hero to his own fans by losing to Man City this week. Welcome to the world in which Liverpool are the top team. Everyone is fucked. Only 1 point separates these two on the table, but who do you think the happier fan base is? It's probably Watford when you consider Everton's form. You can imagine the likes of Sigurdsson and Richarlison will come back to the starting 11 here, having kind of had a bit of a rest this week, but they've only won 3 and 13. I can't see the management getting at them there. They haven't got a good record in Vicarage Road in particular, and Watford could put the final nail in their former boss's coffin. I'm going to go 3-0 and I'm going to go for Pereira as well. And that's probably my more ballsy call of the week.
Okay, 3-0, yeah, that's a lot. But look, Everton have been bad, so you don't know what you're getting with a bad side like that. Moving on to the evening kickoff on Saturday, it's Brighton against Burnley, and you might remember that Burnley's sole win in their miserable start to the season was at home to Brighton, but then again, you probably don't. They now play the return fixture, a rejuvenated force, having not lost in 6 in the league. Brighton have just 2 points in the league in 2019 so far, so that makes this Saturday evening fixture easy, right? Not so fast. Brighton are tricky to beat at home, and beyond last August fixture, the one constant between these two sides, draws. They do it a lot. I won 6 points last week in the prediction league backing Brighton's 0-0 with Watford, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. 0-0 in a game BT Sport regret paying for.
Yeah, this is pretty big for Sean Dyche, I'd say. Brighton had to go to extra time midweek against West Brom in the Cup, but a win here will move them 6 points clear of their opponents in the late game. Why, BT, why? They're in rotten league form, 1 win the last 10 games, while Burnley are kind of steadying out, but they still have to sign a 38-year-old on deadline day as their marquee man. Ugh. They've drawn the last 3, which isn't too bad because they're one of those is in Old Trafford, but they're just extremely inconsistent, which is a bad sign in the race to avoid the drop in the long term. Look, in this 6 point, I'd probably take a draw, which will suit Chris Hughton as well. I'm going to go 1-1. I'm going to go for Crouchy to score.
Okay, interesting. Moving on to the Sunday, the Super Sunday games, and it's like the Sky executives were really proud when they're picking out the Super Sunday games. They were like, "Oh, we did well last week. That was really good. So why don't we just do the same except with different teams?" Literally, it was Man United, Leicester, and then Man City, Arsenal. And this week we get Spurs, Leicester, and Man City, Chelsea. Starting with Spurs, Leicester anyway. And can Spurs keep the great run? Well, I say great, but really what's great here is that they're still on a winning run at all and still in the title picture without Harry Kane or Dele Alli, going with a tricky Super Sunday clash with one eye on the Dortmund game during the week. Fun fact, Spurs are still yet to draw a game this season and have won their last 3 by a single goal. Defeat by Man United saw Claude Puel slip to 5 without a win as he starts to feel the pressure, but Leicester do raise their game for the bigger teams, having beaten City and Chelsea as well as holding Liverpool to a draw all recently. Spurs won their reverse 2-0, but I see that no draw status a bit untenable and they're sure to regress with all things weighing on them eventually. So I'm going to pick a draw here. I'm going to go for 1-1 with Vardy to score as he scored 4 and got 3 assists against Spurs in their last 7 games.
Spurs are in the title race even though they're missing their main star and a couple of supporting actors. Harry Kane is on his way back though as they start a huge one both domestically and on the continent. 2 Dortmund games, Chelsea and Arsenal to come before this date next month. There's your title test. Leicester don't represent too much trouble for me though in Wembley, and I think Spurs knocked this recent knock of winning ugly by 1 goal. with a Korean magician grabbing a hat-trick. I'm going 3-1 and I'm going Son to score anytime.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I like...
I like they're going through what should have been their blip.
Yeah.
They're winning these games ridiculously. Like, it's not entertaining at all. They're leaving it late, but they're still winning.
Yeah.
So, and like this draw stat, I would love, like, oh, it's going to happen eventually. He's just trying to pick the right one.
I think I'm feeling this one for me personally.
Yeah.
There's just so much, like the Dortmund game coming up, then like just the pressure and everyone saying, can they keep doing it? I just see this one. But either way, we're backing them to break their trend. So exactly what's going to happen is they're going to win by 1 goal again. In the 4 p.m. Sunday game, main event of the weekend, Man City against Chelsea. And just... who are Chelsea? Who are they? Will Maurizio Sarri get the tough to motivate side who limped to bad losses at Arsenal and Bournemouth? Or will he get the side that looked unstoppable against Huddersfield and knocked Spurs out of the League Cup surrounding those games? You'll notice a trend, though, if you look closer. The former losses were away, the latter at home. Chelsea visit Man City looking to avoid 3 away losses for the first time in their Premier League history. I don't fancy their chances. City will likely need a win to keep pace if Liverpool beat Bournemouth as expected, and look like they loved getting stuck into a meaty clash with Arsenal last week. Sergio Aguero, he's got 5-5 against Chelsea and looks on fire after his hat-trick in the aforementioned Liverpool game, so I've got him to score in a 2-1 win.
Yeah, look, if Liverpool slip up again, which is possible because it's Liverpool, the door is wide open for City to take control of the title race. They were really professional midweek, getting the job done, and they still have the all-star cast to see this out, even with a couple of injuries. Problem, Chelsea were finally able to click last weekend against Huddersfield and stuck 5 past them, including the brace for new boy Gonzalo Higuain, continuing his incredible scoring record under Sarri. Yeah, okay, it was Huddersfield. And going to the Etihad is a different story, but it's a different side for me from the one that was beaten heavily by Bournemouth, and it's a game where they can finally raise it like they raised it against Spurs. Pep seems laser focused on getting as much silverware as possible, but they lost the reverse 2-0, if I remember right, where Chelsea beat them in the bridge. So maybe not that good this time, but a draw seems fair to me. That's maybe me bottling it because my City logic all year has been, are City better than this team? Yes. Well, okay, they're going to win, but I'm going to go 2-1. I'm going to go Aguero. And I regret that already the second it's come out of my mouth, but I just got a feeling.
Okay, moving on to the last game of the week. On Monday Night Football is back with Wolves against Newcastle. A sneaky interesting one as hot hand Wolves host Newcastle fresh off 3 successive league wins where Wolves have scored 3 or more in every game. Some fun, meaningless facts here in that Wolves have never won a Monday Night Football game, while Newcastle haven't lost at Wolves. I say meaningless because I think the trend with Newcastle this season has been just do enough to avoid a crisis and then get back into one. Wolves are winning all day here for me. Rafa's men have won 2 recent games to take them out of the relegation zone, and if Southampton handle Cardiff, which we expect they will, they won't be under immediate pressure in a game they're not expected to win anyway. So if there's no immediate pressure, the Magpies aren't doing it. 3-1 to Wolves, Jimenez to score.
Yeah, look, all I have to say about this is Matt Doherty is God and Newcastle away from home is not God. Nuno's dream keeps rolling after a midweek cup win. Yes, Rafa got a striker and midfielder on deadline day that he's been asking for so long, but they're just too inconsistent for me, particularly on the road, to take them to get anything against my favourite team. Wolves, like, they're on the verge of being the highest finish for a promoted side since Reading, I want to say, in 2006, when they finished 8th. For those who want to know the record, it's Ipswich who finished 5th and 0-1. That was part of the paper piece during the week. I'm going to go 4-0. I'm going to go Raul Jimenez.
Okay, now I'm taking over acca duties for the next few weeks, so wish me luck, guys. I'm a bit rusty on the Premier League, so I'm going to go for Arsenal against Huddersfield, nice easy one. I'm going to go for Southampton against Cardiff, again, miserable away record for Cardiff, should be a handy one. Liverpool half-time and full-time against Bournemouth, not great odds, but you can throw it into an acca. Again, Bournemouth, I think, have been losing half-time and full-time in like their last 4 or 5 away games, so again, see, that's an easy one. The risky one here is I am, despite telling you guys to avoid it, I'm picking Palace West Ham, probably just to boost the odds in the acca, because I'm ambitious. I want to get back to winning ways and style. I'm backing Palace and West Ham to get a draw, because I just couldn't split them. €5 on that return, €69.81 to a Paddy Power at the moment. So that's the football from domestically this weekend. Here's some of the games to keep an eye out in the European football this weekend, because last week all of my tip-offs for the games to keep an eye on ended up paying off, so expect this week to completely fall flat. In the league, Liga, Atletico made a cock and balls of capitalising on Barca's first drop points of 2019 as the latter drew to Valencia, while Atleti lost ground by being defeated at Betis. They go out of the frying pan and straight into the fire this weekend as they face the visit of a rejuvenated Real Madrid side who've won their last 4 in the league and were leading at Barca in the Copa del Rey for an hour midweek. Real can go second with a win here, but more dropped points for Atletico could spell an effective end to the title race as Barca can go 9 clear, and their last three the last 3 ties between Atletico and Real have ended in a draw, so it looks good that they're going to drop points here. Sadly, it's on Saturday afternoon, so 11th restrictions keep them from airing it, but it's worth keeping an eye on the score at least. Barca can go 9 clear, only if they beat Bilbao on Sunday evening, though, and that has been and it hasn't been an easy prospect in recent times. Bilbao only lost their first match since early December under new coach Gaika Garitano last week. Couple out with Barca's recent blips against Valencia and Real, and an upset may be in store here. In Serie A, I'll be keeping an eye on Saturday evening's classes. The rest of the action looks like a bit placeholder for a Serie A that's gone crazy the past few weeks, and it's probably due a rest week here. At 5 p.m. Saturday, Napoli travel to my beloved Fiorentina, who've scored 8 goals in their last 3 in the league and put 7 past Roma in the Coppa a few weeks ago. Napoli are still chasing down that 9-point gap to Juve, and Ancelotti's men are doing so admirably given it's likely a lost cause. Their 3-0 win over Sampdoria last week being particularly impressive, but this could be tasty, so keep an eye on it. Then, following that, third place Inter, who are suddenly in free fall, face a Parma side who came from behind to draw 3-3 with Juve last week. Inter had previously looked comfortable in third, but back-to-back losses against Torino and inexplicably Bologna has left them with 5 teams in touching distance and under pressure to deliver. Finally, the Bundesliga. All season it's been about can Bayern catch Dortmund, or are they going to do it? And last week, Dortmund may have got one hand on the Bundesliga, as despite being held at Frankfurt, Bayern then went and lost to Leverkusen, allowing Borussia Mönchengladbach to leapfrog them into second and Dortmund to go 7 clear at the top. The two sides, and this has been great by the fixture makers, it's just worked out fantastic because every week Dortmund and Bayern are getting tricky games and they're not necessarily coasting through them. They face further tricky ties as Dortmund, who are knocked out of the cup midweek, host a Hoffenheim side who haven't lost in 7 away without captain and top scorer Marco Reus, and with one eye on the Spurs Champions League clash next week. So in the Saturday evening clash, the pressure is on Bayern after their loss after they face the visit of Schalke. This is the game you'd expect Bayern to coast through, though, as Niko Kovac's men are still in superb form at home, while Schalke are awful away and against Bayern too. So could we see things flip back in Bayern's favour this weekend, or will we see another twist? That's what I'm going to be keeping an eye on this weekend. Dave, what are you going to be watching before we get to Six Nations talk?
Sorry, I'm just going to slot in here. Did you pick Wilfred Zaha to score for Crystal Palace by any chance?
Yeah, he's back.
Yeah, he's just been handed a 1-match ban and fine for improper conduct at Southampton. Breaking Paddy's new yacht use. I don't know if that rules him out, but I think he has a right to appeal, so he might still be alright and he might be suspended next week.
Interesting.
Usually what I would be watching here would be, mainly for the first weekend, this is the kind of time where the Cheltenham bolters start coming, but now we might not even have a Cheltenham. Have you seen this over the last couple of days? The equine flu.
No, what's going on?
Basically, all the horses have flu, and 100 yards have been put into lockdown, including the likes of Nicky Henderson, Paul Nicholls, a couple of top trainers. So obviously you can't have races then because you'll get everyone else get infected. So there's a lot of shutdown, and we are now a month away from Cheltenham in danger of maybe not having a festival or having it delayed. Because obviously you can't have. It's only in Britain, I think, at the moment. It's only British-based so far that they found it.
Right.
We don't know about Irish horses yet. Gordon Elliott has come out and said he seems to be fine, but they're all getting tested. Willie Mullins, unknown as of yet. But Nicholls and Henderson are 2 main UK trainers, and their yards are now in lockdown. So there's no training, there's no running, there's no race. Like, they can't put them into races, they can't put them onto cards. So there's huge danger with Cheltenham. We'll have more than that next week, hopefully. But what I am watching this weekend, I built it up as Leeds and Norwich last Friday night, and Leeds shot the bed. They lost 3-0, which means the title race and the promotion race is now wide open. Norwich and Leeds are locked on top with 57 points. Sheffield United are in second. They go in first this weekend. They're 3 points behind. They head to Aston Villa on Friday night. Leeds in the early game on Saturday are away at Middlesbrough, while Norwich have the East Anglian derby against Ipswich on Sunday in a game that the Tractor Boys need to win to realistically stay in the Championship.
Nice.
It's really hotting up here, including in the playoff race where I think 6 points separate the team from 6th from the team from 13th. I'll get more onto that next week because this weekend is all about the title race.
Okay.
And in these, yeah, go on.
Go on, sorry, go.
No, yeah, it's just the relegation. You're kind of looking at it's 3 teams from 4: Reading, Rotherham, Ipswich, and Bolton. They're all kind of locked together. Ipswich last chance this weekend, which makes it really, really interesting.
Okay, excellent. Right, you're selling me on the championship well, and with LOI coming back, I don't know, maybe this could be a year to get me interested. It's coming back next week. We're going to be back in 2 weeks, by the way, guys, because next week it's just the FA Cup. There's not much sports on, so we're going to be taking a week off, and we will be doing a big LOI preview though when we come back, and we'll have a week of fixtures under our belts to kind of help Kento's case. Can you sell me on the LOI? We shall see. Anyway, but we all want to talk about it. Let's get chatting about the Six Nations this weekend. What do you keep an eye on? What's your acca?
Oh, last weekend, France and Wales. We had the bullying, bruising France of old in the first half, backed up by the bottling, nervous France of new in the second half. Which side will show up in Twickenham? It doesn't really matter. Their record is absolutely awful in London recently, so that's an easy enough win for England. Secondly, for 2:15 on Saturday, like Joe Schmidt, he's on his way to Murrayfield with an awfully depleted side. Scotland have changed under Gregor Townsend. They used to be, right, batter you down with the forwards and then try and get in with the backs, but now all of them can cut you to shred. They have the lightest pack of the 6 sides in the tournament, which means that their forwards are well able to run as well. Ireland lost on their last visit to Murrayfield, and they're in big trouble again for me. On the other game, Wales have made 10 changes to their starting 15 for their visit to Rome. Easy enough. Nothing really else to be said here. Maybe look at the try scores. My accumulator is France plus 12 on the handicap, Scotland plus 5 on the handicap, which is an absolute steal, 11-10, and George North anytime. Comes in at about 10-1.
Okay, interesting. There you go. Check it out, guys. Ireland, yeah. I'm nervous. ahead of this weekend. We said it at the start.
Not confident.
We said it at the start, and last week, that's when we thought we were going to beat England. So, it could be a disaster. So we shall see. We'll be reporting on it when we're back. Anyway, we're going to add.
Speaking of disasters,
we're going to add video to this now because it's time for another edition of Kent on Kent. We're going to add video to make sure he's not cheating, as we have seen in the past. Notorious cheater, David Kent. We're going basically, guys, if you're a newer listener to the show, it's quite simple. All you have to do, we're going to quiz David on stories that he's reported for Buzz.ie during the week. See how much attention he's been paying to his own stories and how much research he put into them. We've been doing this all year. He's 12-10 down to me, so within touching distance, but I've been keeping him at arm's length for a lot of the past few months since I came back from a deficit myself. 3 questions on stories he's reported. If he gets 2 or more, he wins a point for the week, and he will be within 1 point of catching me. So get it kicked off. I think these questions are doable this week. If you've done your research, they're doable. All right. First question.
We all, the history of that isn't that good.
You reported on the Pats grinding out a win in the lowest scoring Super Bowl of all time. But what 2 teams previously held that ominous record?
No. It's going to be one of the early ones.
I'll give you...
the Oilers.
No, wait. Hold on. Before you commit to this, I will give you the point if you can guess either the number Super Bowl or if you can guess the year it happened in. Because you're not going to guess them if you don't know it. Or the teams. Either way.
Yeah,
it's been talked about this week.
Oilers, Packers. I don't know.
You don't want to have a go at the... I'd go for the number of the year, personally.
Super Bowl 10, 1963. I don't know.
Okay. Question 2. You reported on Newcastle signing Paraguayan midfielder Miguel Almiron from Atlanta United on transfer deadline day. But how many goals did he score in his MLS career? And you reported this in your article. I love these questions.
Yeah.
This is in the article.
Yeah.
These are my faves.
In his career or last season?
In his MLS career. The stat you reported in the article.
Yeah, no. I'm fucked. I'm gone this week. I'm absolutely fucked. Midfielder. I'm not going to score that many.
He had, I think it was...
For some reason, the number 20.
I think he had 62 appearances.
Yeah, for some reason, I thought you were going to ask me in the season, and I think he scored 27 last season, but that doesn't seem right for me. I'm just going to go with 27. overall.
Okay. Question 3. You were working this week. Last week we were scraping the barrel, but you were doing a lot of work this week.
Yeah, a couple of shifts this week, already.
Bad news is not a lot of sports, so we're going to have to switch to the world of entertainment, which is loosely and tangentially related to sports. I was about to say transgenderly related to sports.
Yeah, and
it's not transgenderly, it's tangentially related to sports. Words are failing me. It's a late taping, guys.
Stop trying to sound smart.
Lastly, you reported on the Game of Thrones Bud Light Super Bowl trailer featuring a cameo from the Mountain from Game of Thrones, of course. But what is the name of the actor who plays the Mountain?
It's he's Icelandic. It's like Halfurson is the second name.
What's the second name?
He's a fucking Halfurson, something like that. It's probably wrong, but it's something. He's a world fucking bodybuilding champion.
He's doing the thing where he lists everything he knows about the subject.
Except his name.
Except the answer.
Signor Halfurson, something like that. It's not that, but it's Icelandic. I know that.
Okay, question 1. You reported on the Pats. You said the Oilers and the Packers were the team.
I fucking know the Hounds name as well.
Well, that's easier. That's not Icelandic.
Yeah, that's definitely easier.
and not in any way relevant to the story we're discussing. The Oilers against the Packers, you said, for the previous low-scoring Super Bowl. You said Super Bowl 10 in 1963. It was Super Bowl 7 in 1973. That's just maths, Kent, though. It's Super Bowl 53 at the weekend. Come on, do the maths and figure out when Super Bowl 10
it was just covering me tracks in case. I didn't say Super Bowl 10 was in 63. I was just covering me tracks.
Getting 3 I gave you 3 guesses. You got none of them right.
Fair.
Miami Dolphins against the Washington
yeah.
Redskins were the teams. 14-7 and finished, 21 points, whereas this week was 16. Miguel Almiron scored 21 goals in 62 appearances. And the name of the mountain in Game of Thrones is, Hafbor Julius Bjornsson. So,
oh, wow.
I think you
Where the fuck was I going?
I think you mumbled something like that, but you didn't mumble the correct answer. So,
fair.
Not out of 3. That was a bad week. I'm gonna have to make it easier because now I'm moving up to 13 and 10. So I'll make it easier next week.
Here's the worry. Next week I'm on holidays from here until Tuesday.
Oh wait, we're not here next week.
Not many bush shifts next week.
We don't have a show.
Yeah.
We don't have a show, so we're grand.
Grand, 2 weeks.
Right, 2 weeks from now.
Oh god, that's going to give you a lot of stuff to write.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. All right, we'll see. We'll have a lot to work with, guys. Back in 2 weeks anyway, with a League of Ireland preview. Can Kento sell me on the League of Ireland? Six Nations will be back then as well. In the meantime, enjoy the sporting weekend ahead. Enjoy the FA Cup next week if you're going to be paying attention, or just take a week off like we are as well. But until then, for Rick Nash, for David Kent, this has been Paddy's New Yacht.